Should be fine. Yeah, yeah. Okay, hold on here.
I think we're live.
We are live. It gives you no warning.
Ready to go.
All right, sweet. Well, that's great. Hey, Andrew, it's nice to meet you. Glad
Yeah.
to glad to see you on the stream with us. Thank you for joining us this lovely Friday afternoon. We're really excited just to chat about yeah, chat about your work and the nonprofit ministry you represent.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me and thinking about us just as your nonprofit partner. And we always need help and we always love partnerships and relationships that go farther than help. So I'm excited to talk with you all and yeah, just see kind of wherever it goes.
Awesome. Fritz, I know had some questions, but before we get into that, should we do introductions, Fritz?
Sure.
Sweet.
You
Fritz,
want to go first?
yeah, Fritz, you go first.
All right, sure. So for those who may not know, my name is Joe Fritz Paul. I'm the designer of Prestige, City Building card game, now live on BackerKit, and very excited by that. And yeah, that's me.
Awesome. I'm Jack Dunbar, publisher of who leads New Kingdom Gaming and also Kingdoms of the Earth. This is a DBA under New Kingdom Gaming, and the goal here is to highlight designers like Fritz and then also causes that they care about, which Andrew is representing today from Kingdom Causes Bellflower. So, Andrew, could you introduce yourself for the audience? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name's Andrew son Nicholas. I am the executive director of Kingdom Causes Bellflower, which is a community development nonprofit in the city of Bellflower, California. We will be here. Well, I've only been here a little over a year, but the organization's been here 25 years next year. So it's been going strong. But yeah, my family and I are from SoCal. My wife and I met at Long Beach State, so we're familiar with the area, but we've traveled around a little bit, and then God has brought us back here. So we're back here.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Fritz, you had some questions, so why don't we just dive into those questions and see where that leads our conversation today?
Sure. I thought we'd break off with some fun icebreakers first, since Andrew is not only an amazing person doing amazing work, but also a lover of board games like the rest of us. So I had a few icebreakers involving that. So first question is, first board game that got you into the hobby? And it's open to the group, not necessarily just Andrew.
Well, I'll give you a moment on that one, Andrew, because I have an
Yeah.
answer
Okay,
for
good, good.
me. Um, so when I was in high school, Risk 2210 AD came out. And my friends and I we played board games some, we would get together and play Monopoly and play Risk and stuff like that. Um, but 2210 AD, my friend showed me this. It was like, hey, there's this new Avalon Hill version of Risk. You should check it out. And we picked it up and we were like, whoa, there's like special powers and there's like you could like go to the moon and there was just all these little like miniatures and stuff and we were like, whoa, this is crazy. This is very cool. So that was really what broke the ice for me. I was in high school and then several years later, I was living in an apartment with my cousin, and I thought back to how much fun we had playing board games as as teenagers, and just started collecting board games. I was like, I remember having a lot of fun with some of these like more complex games. Let's see what else is out there. So I reached out to a friend. He had been interested as well, and we just kind of that was where the Pandora's box just opened. It was like, oh man, so many games. Richie started buying them, I started buying them, and we started playing weekly. We were young, single,
Yeah,
living downtown, and
yeah.
what are we gonna do? We just started playing lots of games, and it became a really great way to meet new people, sort of just um, grow and deepen relationships. And ever since, it's been a huge, huge part of my life. So that's for me. It was Risk 2210 AD. That
That's
was what
awesome.
broke the
And
ice.
I
nice.
love it.
Yeah.
So I'll go for me. So I grew up in a game family, but mostly like card games and party games type of stuff. And so you could talk about like a board game, more in the sphere we're talking about. It really happened when my wife and I had our first child, Kaylee. and we're pretty different. So like Amanda, my wife, we love Jesus. We really like each other, and we like hospitality and hosting stuff. But a lot of the other things about us are opposite. So we're just the way we get energy, the way we relax, all that kind of stuff. And so when you had a newborn, and I was at home because my work provided like leave for that, you just start to realize like, man, we're just not. This isn't as fun as we hoped. And so we were at, I was walking somewhere, I forgot where I found it, some store, but there was a board game called Defenders of the Realm, which is an old, like Eagle Griffin back in the day, one of the kind of ones. And so it was big and it was heavy. And I was like, well, this is cool. And I always love stories, fantasy, sci-fi kind of stuff. So we brought it home and we played it and we loved it. And we realized that we had something else in common is we love board games, particularly co-op board games, and semi-co-op board games. And so that kind of started us on this trail. And we started getting into, or I started getting into Kickstarter back when it was kind of just launched and was really popular. And so back then you could really flip games pretty easily because there was all these exclusives and stuff that they were doing. And so we would buy two games just because we didn't have a huge budget. We're doing ministry stuff back then, and we would keep one and we'd sell the other, and it would pay for both those games. So I think at the climax of our collection, we had I think it was like almost 1,200 games and expansions in our collection.
Wow, 1,200, man.
Yeah, almost 1,200. I built a board game table with the vault that so we could
Sweet.
have dinner, but then after dinner, kids are in bed, pull up the vault and go. And so we're still, and then we loved it. We did a lot of just kind of gathering people and doing board game nights and things like that. And we still do that to this day. So yeah, but it was Defenders of the Realm was the first kind of board game that got my wife and I both into it.
Nice.
Sweet. And then for me, my story actually involves Andrew. So Andrew and I actually have quite a history together. He's been one of my best friends for many years now, creeping on a decade, which is hard to
Yeah,
believe.
it's crazy.
And when we first met, he had just moved up to the San Francisco area, and he invited me and our other buddy Dave over for a game night. And up until that point, I had played like I dabbled in Dominion, but that was basically the only thing beyond like Monopoly that I ever played. And I believe we played Last Night on Earth, if I recall the name right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
the zombie one. And
Mhm.
I think from that point I was hooked. However, it was probably a little bit more of a like slowly integrating into my life. Andrew and I became housemates for a while, so I had access to that collection of 1,200 games, and it's hard not to play all the time when you have that just staring you at in your face whenever you wake up every morning.
Yeah.
Nice. That's a cool connection. I didn't I realized that, I knew that you, Andrew, were Fritz's gateway into hobby
Yeah.
gaming, but I didn't realize that you were housemates and that the collection was that massive because that really does create a lot of opportunity to, experience new games and get to know each other better. So, um,
Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
Sweet.
awesome.
So for another second icebreaker, I'll make this one quick. What is the most recent new to you game that you played?
Let's take a moment on that question. I have to go
Sure.
let my dog in. She's
Okay.
barking. But also, I got the chat set up over on
All right.
BackerKit and YouTube. So if any of you are watching and you have questions on the stream, let us know, or let us know what your favorite new to you game is.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, while Jack goes let his dogs out, yeah, thanks for joining us, Andrew. Do you want to give us a little background behind what Kingdom Causes Bellflower does?
Yeah, absolutely. So Kingdom Comes Bellflower, like I said, it'll be 25 years next year. And it's a community development nonprofit that focuses specifically in kind of what originally started focusing on mostly homeless outreach. Our city is right there by the riverbed, the LA riverbed. So there's a lot of homeless that are there, homeless neighbors. And so it started years ago with a group of churches that just realized there was a growing homeless population. They wanted to do something. And so started just doing like giving out sandwiches and just talking, having conversations. And it kind of has grown to just always try to adapt to the needs of the area. And so currently, Kingdom College Bellflower focuses on three areas, and the mission or the idea is we're trying to mobilize our community, so kind of the greater Bellflower area, and provide services that will transform folks' lives so that all the neighbors around us can have a place to live, work, and belong. And it's really those three things. So the live aspect is homeless care or housing services, and so in that there's two kind of ways that the society or our government tries to fight that, and that's either with finding housing, so housing navigation, case management. So these are folks that are already struggling with homelessness. What are your barriers? What's going on? And how do we help get you into permanent housing and resources, whether that be a voucher or reunification with family or whatever, to help you get off the street into the house. And the other one is housing retention. And so we're finding an increase of folks becoming homeless. And so how do we support you when you've got that 3-day notice and that late notice you're about to get kicked out of your place? How can we help resource you to help you make it so you don't become homeless? And so our housing or the live aspect will do both of those. The work aspect is we have a social enterprise called Good Soil Industries. And the bit about that is targeting and trying to get folks with work barriers, particularly ex-felons and ex-addicts, that
Mm.
want to get back into the work system. And so as you can imagine, having that on your resume or your record, it'd be hard to get into work. And so we have a program to where if you can get into this program, half the time you're doing landscaping work. So it's a landscape company. So you're learning kind of a lot of just work skills, not
Mhm.
particularly landscaping's there, but also how do you get along with coworkers? How do you learn how to submit to a boss? And how do you lead well if you're the seasoned one there? The other half of the time you're getting helping get rid of your barriers, whatever that is. And that could be things from you need clothes or you need an ID card or you're trying to get your GED or whatever that may be. And so you have these participants that come in, and right now we're usually between 9 and 12 that will be here for up to 3 months working. And then we just have a case manager, and then we partner up with another organization that works on helping to remove barriers. And then the hope is they graduate from that program into full-time employment. And so we have that. And then the belong aspect is we're finding is that folks, if even if they have a place to work and they have a place to live, a missing aspect, if they don't feel like they belong there in the neighborhood, the city, whatever it is, they'll struggle. They'll struggle to, especially if they're being housed and they maybe have been homeless for a while. The retention rate isn't as high as you would think. Like folks will leave or get out of that permanent housing, go back to homelessness because it's what they know, it's more secure. And so we're trying to also help them feel like they belong, that they are loved, you're cared for, you're important, you're valued.
Yeah.
But that's kind of weird and awkward. You know, I've never been homeless, and I go into a new neighborhood, and sometimes it's kind of awkward as you look at the glares and suspicious faces, or it's the neighborhood does stuff a certain way. I'm not sure of it yet. And so we have the belong aspect, which is we have a community center that's in front of our office that's open when we're here in the office. And there's things like access center type stuff. So computers or there's telephones, they can get bus passes, there's food here, there's just people here that my staff that'll be up there that just genuinely will smile when they see you walk in the door because they value and they want
Mm.
to talk and how are things going. But also providing classes like financial competency and just kind of other things like that that's needed. And so
Mhm.
our approach really is trying to help the whole person. And as we hope to meet these physical needs as we're able to, everyone here loves Jesus. And so we're just kind of praying and hoping that we're able to meet some spiritual needs as well, and that they do
Cool.
feel something different, just some peace while they're here, and just kind of see where that goes. But yeah, so we hit 25 years next year. We currently have a staff of 10 full-time, and then we have 4 part-time that do different things.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's a general recap, a general.
Yeah, that's amazing, Andrew. Thank you for sharing all that. I really love the belonging aspect. It's no secret, Fritz and I are both Christians as well, and it's a huge part of our interest in supporting Kingdom Causes as much as we can with this campaign and yeah, in the future sales of Prestige. But um, for me, I've worked with I've known a number of people going through the homeless journey, like struggling in that struggle. I always call it homelessness, right? Like struggling against homelessness. It's like this other thing that isn't like appended to a person. It's like outside of them. But something you said that really struck me just now was how people who are, you know, they're not finding the belonging will go back to what is comfortable or secure, which is homelessness.
Mhm.
Um, and that to me is just an interesting concept. Can you talk about like maybe an example of how you've seen belonging impact a person and how that makes a difference?
Yeah. One of the cool things that I like, and really all of these things that I'm talking about, I didn't start. These are things that I'm just kind of coming in and
Yeah,
continuing. But one of the things that I like that we have here twice a month is called a housing support group, and it's for folks who were homeless that somehow are connected with our program or a partner program. They can just come and meet, and we just host here in the community center. And we provide food, and it's just a place for them to kind of talk and encourage each other. And so just hearing those conversations of the people and the struggles that they're going through, and just seeing them be able to help each other and support each other, whether that just be, hey, I get it and I hear you and it's tough, but it gets better, or if it's like, oh, I know someone who might be able to help with that type of thing. However, those connections are, there's even just a sense of belonging there because these folks are wanting to help. And so a big part of our volunteer base when we go out and we'll speak at churches or organizations, or some people will support us by doing call it a hygiene kit packing party. But one of the main reasons folks come into our community center to get these hygiene kits, which is just kind of your basic necessities and some food, maybe a gift card to a fast food spot, toothbrushes, those kind of things. But it's something that's needed, so they can come in
Mhm.
and we have them here and they're free. And so we do these parties where usually churches will put them on and they get their volunteers, and then we bring some, we call it, say, lived experience folks. So folks that were homeless and no longer are will go and they'll speak and they'll talk. And they're just so excited. You know, these are some of the dearest friends that I have here are these folks that are just so excited to want to give back, to do whatever they can, because they feel so grateful to being able to be a part of kind of this KCB family, and they feel like they belong. They feel like they have a place and they have a part here.
Mhm.
On the flip side, you know, I've had more than a few stories, even in the last year, of folks that have um, either left or gotten kicked out of housing. And so typically, if they're getting kicked out, there's certain rules that you'll have depending on the way that you got housed, or if you're doing a Section 8 voucher or stuff. And so typically, some of the rules is no hoarding. You're not doing big groups. You're not having more people kind of stay there.
Sure.
Um, One of the heartbreaking stories I have is this lady that's here, older lady, was homeless for over 5 years, in housing now. She said one of the hardest things for her was she couldn't tell her friends that she used to on the street where she lived, because they would all kind of come and it would get her in trouble with their stuff. And so she's like, I
Mhm.
only get to see them when I go visit and I kind of bring food and things like that. And so that's the other aspect of this belong is, if you're on the street and you figured out how to do it, and they get really well at this, there's lots of resources, you know, in our state here, is you get comfortable with it, you get good with it, you create a family, you have a family that you have there, you look out for each other. It's not safe there, so any kind of sense of risk or danger is going to draw you closer to those people, you know, that you're in the trenches with. And
Mhm.
so when they have to leave that, and they have to try to do something new that's scary for a whole bunch of other reasons, it makes it very difficult, you know. And so that's where
Yeah.
we're just hoping to try to meet them where they're at and try to let them know they can always come here. So whenever they are struggling with that, they'll just hopefully show up, and we can help support, even if it's just, hey, just hang out for a bit and let's grab lunch, you know, and that kind of stuff.
Man, that's so interesting because I feel like it kind of goes back to like the first thing that we talked about, like how'd you get into board games?
Yeah.
Well, you had a friend
Hmm.
who had games and introduced them to you, and like all three of us, that was our kind of
Hmm.
entrance was like it was relational.
Hmm.
I feel like anything that uh, like relationship is the lifeblood of humanity. Like we need it to survive, and people will fall back to their relationships. So, like you said, you know, just people they live in the trenches and they build this community, this relationship, this bond.
Hmm.
Like that builds security. And like
Right.
if they
Right.
can't find that somewhere else and find other people to be around who are like, oh yeah, no, like we
Mhm.
all are kind of on the same track, like that kind of helps. Like a rising ship rises all tides, a sinking ship will sink with
Right.
others as well, right? Like
Right.
um so I think man, it's just really cool to hear about the work that you're doing and how the impression that I get from it is that this is not a quick fix.
Yeah,
Like the programs that you're talking about are not like, oh, here I'm handing out checks or
right.
going out on the corner handing out food. Though sometimes you may do those things.
Mhm.
It sounds like your ministry, your nonprofit is much more than that.
Trying to be. It's tough, like you said. I think it's hard because we're in a society to where they want measurable results, right? So we're funded through government grants, through private grants, and through donations. And the bulk of our stuff though is through government grants. And so there's numbers and results that are wanting. Even like some of our big donor bases, church and organizations will find themselves like, how come more things aren't happening? How come your numbers aren't higher? How come there's still homeless I see on the street? And it's like, okay, well, Matthew 25, Jesus says we're always going to have the poor. Like, I don't think it's a matter of like, let's solve homelessness. Like, I don't know if that's ever going to go away.
Yeah.
And even like statistically, if you look right now, especially because there's so much mental illness that are part of the streets, people that are living on the streets, and then drug with fentanyl and things coming in, is you kind of just ballparks. The idea is if you split the homeless folks that are on the streets into thirds, you've got a third that actually is homeless and probably doesn't want to be. They just don't understand the resources that are available. And then you have a third that are homeless and they may want help, but they're struggling with like mental illness, or they're struggling with addiction or something that just makes it difficult for them to kind of put those pieces together. Or
Yeah.
we do outreach and just try to talk. And you have a third that just don't want to leave the street. They're just like, we're good, like we're fine, because in truth, most people could go on the freeway entrance or exit, and you could beg and make a higher hourly rate than you can working at a job. I think like we have a society that tends to give money, that tends to give stuff. And so there's a third, it's like, yo, I'm good with this. And so the difficulty then is that relational bit of like, all right, well, how do we then help? What does it look like to help? How do we feed and clothe the least of these? How do we help get them what they need, just hoping that they get a sense of a piece that they really want? But then also, how do you do that with the restrictions? Because we're not proselytizing. You don't do anything. They don't have to do anything in order to get our services. They qualify according to the grant restrictions and procedures. But how do we do that? And then on the other side, difficulty is, how do I keep my team encouraged, and a work that day in and day out, you're seeing just sometimes just the worst parts of our society, the most broken bits, kind of our world. And so we get a good celebration, good story once a week. That's a good week. That's what we hope
Yeah.
for.
Yeah. Fritz, do you have something you were thinking?
Uh, I don't, but I can segue us if you'd like.
Oh, it's
But
okay.
it looked like
No,
you
I
had
was,
something you were thinking too.
yeah, I do. It's it's interesting. You mentioned a few times how Kingdom Causes Bellflower's been around 20, you said, was it 20
20
years? 25 years.
25 years next year.
25.
Yeah. Well, yeah. 25 years next year.
And you're new to this. So one thing you just mentioned was your team.
Mhm.
And something I've been, thinking about as you've been talking is your involvement. Like how do you're stepping in as executive director, how has it been taking on that mantle of leadership, and what do you see as, your role? Um, how does that play into it? Because you're not just, leading these programs and assisting people in the homeless struggle. You're also assisting, like you said, your staff and your volunteers. So um, tell us a little bit about that, like the
Yeah.
experience of being the executive director.
Yeah, it's to give a little bit of my background. I mean, I'm a teams guy. I mean, I can
Mhm.
remember as like a kid loving team. I think Joe can attest, or Fritz. Actually, I need to know where this Fritz thing came
Oh,
from, because I was like, Joe, Fritz, Paul can attest to this. But when my wife and I, so I have an engineering undergrad, so my brain is very system structured. It's very like, let's figure out kind of where we're at and where we want to go, and I can help get us kind of to that spot. So that's kind of how my brain thinks. And my wife,
Sound like a board game
yeah,
guy.
yeah, just kind of like that. And so I like building buildings and playing board games and helping folks grow. But my wife and I, when we first got married, our first year, we God kind of, I say tricked us, but he just into church planting, and we were church
Sure.
planting. And so that was what we did in Southern California, in Long Beach, and then actually in seminary is where I met the guy that I planted with in San Francisco, where I met Joe and Faith and all those awesome people over there. And then after San Francisco, my family and I went to China, and we were in China with our two kids, just kind of doing good work over there. And so when we came back, we weren't really sure. We had to come back a little quicker than we expected. We weren't really sure kind of like what God had next. And so I was familiar with Kingdom Causes Bellflower. I knew the current ED. And very quickly it just seemed like this is where God was telling us to go next and the next stage of kind of the work that we're doing. And so we came into this knowing that. And so that's huge because it was like no matter what comes, good or bad, we have confidence that this is where we're supposed to be. And so let's just kind of keep going with that. What I didn't realize coming back, so we were in China during COVID and in China during the bulk of like the Trump era of presidency. And so like post-Trump, post-COVID, US and workplace and professionalism and standards and all that stuff is just completely different. And so coming in, my understanding of kind of team and this, and I've been leading teams for a long time. So it's been a big learning curve, I think, with that in general. And so that, people always say when you come into a spot, you're going to have turnover, you're going to have change. And I think, in this season and in the time that when it comes to like homeless services and care, kind of social justice mercy ministry and care that we're trying to do, it's a really weird season with government and kind of how we're doing money. All that to say, we've had a lot of turnover and a lot of changes over the last year when it comes to staffing. But what I can say now and what I love is that the team that we have right now they're great. They're amazing. They have all the right hearts. They're doing the work for the right reasons. I mean, I don't want to get into it here for the timeline, but I can tell you a story of just how that just was. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus, for each of these individuals that had come in. And you can, I was going to show you the staff pictures are over there, but you can see them on the website if you're interested and stuff. But it's a good group of folks. I have my director of GSI who was a participant 10 years ago. And so his story is he came up and he's now leading the program that he went into when he got out of jail and got clean. And he started as a participant, one of the landscape people trying to remove barriers. And he's now the director. He's running that program. My director of housing services was part of Kingdom Causes before, and just kind of his story if he goes through and he actually came back. And one of the cool things about him, he's become one of my great friends now, is he actually applied for the ED position too. We didn't know each other back then, but then after we met afterwards, the fact that he still wanted to come and work is just, thank you, that's weird in a lot of ways, but it's awesome in all the right ways. And so because of his expertise and knowledge and then the ability to work, he's been doing amazing kind of work here. And so I think to answer your question, my job here, the bulk of my job is just to help my team do their job better. So what do you need? Like where you at personally, professionally, as a leader, as a husband or a wife or a girlfriend or whatever it is, my role, a big part of my role is how do I help you succeed in kind of what you are being called to do right now. And so we're better together. So how do we kind of figure this out? And so that's my hope, is that they feel supported. If I'm doing my job well, my team feels supported. They feel like I will be quick to help and get answers if I don't know them. And they're going to feel like I'm leading kind of by example. I'm leading the charge. And so I'm in front. I'm like, all right, guys, come on, let's go. And we're kind of going forward wherever we're going. So that's, to me, that's the big part of the fun part and the big part of my job.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Going along that thread of, building belonging, like modeling that and creating a team where that is a very key piece. It sounds like that is kind of what you're going for.
Yeah. Yeah, because ultimately for me, it's and I tell my team that is whether you're here for a week or the rest of your life, like give 100%. I'm going to pour into you 100% because I want you to be better tomorrow than today. It doesn't matter if you're with me forever or you go somewhere else or what. That doesn't matter. That's not the point. It's the point I want you to kind of be better. And I think if you genuinely have an environment, a team, a culture of that to where everyone's looking out for each other. So instead of just me looking out for me, I've got my rest of my team looking out for me and I'm looking out for them. Like you do have a place that you enjoy going to work on Monday. You do have a place that you're willing to work hard and get beat up emotionally and mentally like this job does with just the hardness that we talked about before, knowing
Yeah.
that you got a team right there taking the hits, taking the blows, supporting each other as you're going. And so I'm excited for the team we have here and the conversations over here and all the laughter in the midst of the chaos and craziness that happens most days while we're here. So we got a good team. We got a good team. Thank you. Thank you, God, for that.
Amen, dude. That's awesome.
So maybe we can transition here a little bit because I'm not sure everybody who might be tuning in is familiar with why we're all talking. So
Mm.
Jack, if you could take a moment, uh, how does backing Prestige and how does the heart behind Kingdoms of the Earth benefit uh, Kingdom Causes Bellflower?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So uh my goal with New Kingdom Gaming is to create a place for friends and followers to experience the game table together. What that means in the New Kingdom side, it means that we're creating explicitly Christian content to reach an audience that is mixed. And the whole goal there is to create community and to build relationships and to create open dialogue around something I personally find extremely interesting and important, you know, biblical themes and narratives. Now, Kingdoms of the Earth is a completely different thing. It's not explicitly Christian in its aim, but the reality is there. Like I deeply believe in, following Jesus and doing what he said. And what he said was to what? Clothe the naked, feed the hungry, care for the sick, visit the prisoner. And so Kingdoms of the Earth is based on what it comes from actually is a passage in Revelation that says at the end of time,
Mm.
the kings of the earth will bring their glory into the new kingdom. It it says that explicitly. And there's really this thing of like God is in our human strivings, right? Like at the end of the day, you try to make the most with what you can and work with excellence and all of this kind of stuff. And Kingdoms of the Earth is kind of it is a symbol of that. It's us like putting our best foot forward in the game design world,
Mm.
making board games. And then what are we going to do with it? We're going to try to do something that honors what God would want us to do. So that's kind of my desire with Kingdoms of the Earth projects is that they would give back, that they would serve, that they would be like an example of some of like the best things that we can do as people and like the best we can do on Earth, right? And so I think what the work that you're doing, Andrew, and the work that your team is doing is an example of that. Like this is some of the best work that human beings can do is caring for other human beings who are struggling.
Mm.
So the goal and how backing Prestige supports Kingdom Cause Bellflower is for one, 10% of the crowdfunding net proceeds will go straight to KCB. And then on a quarterly basis, just like designer royalties, there'll be a royalty paid to KCB that's like, hey, this is the partner for this project. So, if this game catches fire and it like gets into distribution at some point or whatever, yeah, I'll just run a quarterly royalties report. And while I'm paying designers like Fritz and my designers on the New Kingdom side, there's also a royalty line that goes to KCB. So be a recurring donation. That's the desire, and that's what we're shooting for here. Um, so our goal is first to fund, raise that money, and then give
Mhm.
it away and sell additional copies on the back end. So that's the whole goal here.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
And I think in addition to that, I'd also like to highlight that our through uh, great idea through Jack was we also have the Kingdoms of the Earth tier as well on our pledge level. So if you back at that level, $40 of your backing will automatically go towards KCB just directly,
Yep.
which I was very excited when you rolled that out. That was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's an awesome opportunity. I mean, there's like, and that's one of the things I think is great about this project is, um, oftentimes like markup is sort of artificial. For me,
Mm.
the markup is there because like, hey, you're giving to this thing.
Mhm.
And why not support just one creative project, but also a cause that's associated with that project? Like, um, that's yeah, that's my thought.
It's cool. Yeah, I've backed hundreds and hundreds of games, and I don't know that I've ever seen this. So I was pleasantly surprised when Joe first or Fritz was first telling me about it or asking about it. Um, and it was cool as I was reading through your pages when it launched and going. I was like, it's not just because it's Kingdom Causes, the company that I'm a part of, and doing this, but I think just in general, because I think even though we may be like boots on the ground with certain things, I think in the kingdom of God that's here, that's coming nearer and nearer, we all have our part and piece to play for it to work out well. And so we're not doing any greater work than you guys, not even just in this, but with your other lives. And it's more just like, man, am I doing what I feel like God wants me to do to the best of my ability? And so whatever he's called me to do is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing is the best thing and the best work that I can be doing. And if more of us do that, then we're able to support each other and we see shalom, right? We see peace more and more kind of in our areas of influence. And so I think it's really cool. I had not seen it before this. I may have just missed it. But I don't think so. I think I would have probably backed those tiers if there was things like that in the games that I was looking at. But I think it's just a really cool idea.
Yeah, hopefully it's inspiring. I hope that other people will see it and go, "Oh, that's kind of cool." Like I have to you know, recognize, man, I don't know where I saw it now. I wish I could give credit to the designer and campaign where I first learned about this.
Hmm.
Oh, I actually do know. It was Galen McCown with a Kickstarter project called Super Snipers. He had a like subsidized pledge tier where it's
Hmm.
like, hey, if you're going through something like games are a blessing, right? If you um want that, like you want to have fun and stuff, but you can't afford it, like here's like a limited quantity that's subsidized by the funding of this project. And I was like,
Oh,
oh, that's awesome, I'm gonna do that. So I've done that on all of my projects in the past. This one is different. It's got the added donation tier, but um yeah, just a really cool option, I think. And it's fun to see, like, if somebody does something, even if it's like Super Snipers is a great project and Galen did a good job with that, and just recently sent out all of his copies and stuff. But we're not talking like this wasn't a multi-million-dollar campaign, but it caught
hmm.
my attention and got me doing it. Maybe other people will do that too. You never know the ripple effect that things will have,
Yeah,
even if they're small.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at Super Snipers right now to find out where I can buy it.
Yeah, it's a cool cool game.
Support
It's
support this
poly
guy.
yeah, polyomino. Yeah, Galen's a great guy. He's a mental health therapist in his day job. So um, you know,
Cool.
uses games a lot, I think, in his
Mhm.
work. And yes, Super Snipers is a fun one. It's really interesting. It's a real-time sniper duel with polyomino where you're looking through a scope and you're trying to find your opponent and they're hiding, right? And you're like trying to isolate them and like keep other targets safe and stuff. Very interesting kind of game. I haven't really played one like it. And it's played with sand timers. So you like flip over the timer, you're like
Oh,
putting in these pieces and stuff. And
that's cool.
anything real time stresses me out in
Yeah,
board games. I'm
yeah.
like, you know, get a little sweaty, but sometimes it's the right vibe. Yeah.
Right. So I know we were scoped for half an hour and we're kind of pushing that, but one thing I'd love to know, especially keep in mind that we've got people from all over the world. If people are interested, Andrew, how can they further support you and the work that KCB is doing? Either locals who might be interested or people from the other corners of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and definitely if you're a person who prays, please just pray that we're on track with what we're supposed to be doing. And then if you're local and you want to kind of volunteer support, my thing is just let's come on by and check out our community center and we can sit and talk and kind of our volunteer opportunity ideas like come and see what we're doing and see what gets your heart excited and what kind of gifts and skills has God given you and how could that help support it with whatever's exciting you about what we're doing. And then vice versa, there's people listening that are struggling. If we don't have the resources to help, it's likely we'll know kind of who to send you to or who to call and kind of help you. And so we definitely want to be just a support system in this area. And then out of the area, again, if you pray. I mean, we always could use more support financially. We're trying to be less reliant on government grants and more reliant on folks that believe kind of in the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always love conversation. If you have any ideas on how we can do stuff better as you look at our website and stuff, like I know we're not doing it perfectly, so we always have room to grow. So if anyone's interested, let me know. Let's connect. Let's talk about you coffee or tea or food or something stronger, whatever you prefer, and then we can go from there.
Awesome. Nice. And I'll do my best, Andrew, to get your information out there so people can contact you.
Yeah,
They can donate personally. Like if you're just like if you're watching this and you're like, man, I love what's going on here. Um, support, connect directly. And I want to create the opportunity to do that. So
awesome.
cool. Well, Andrew, thank you for taking a few extra minutes with us. Um, yeah, I really appreciate the work that you're doing. Bless you, bless your team. Pray that it just continues to be a success and that we see more and more people escaping homelessness and
Yeah.
finding, dignity and security and life in the full.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you guys for all you're doing and whoever's watching. Spread the word, support the game. I think it's gonna be a good one. I still have your original the original
Dust in
Prototype.
of
Space.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dust in Space, the big wooden box.
Oh, dust in
That's
We
a
space.
whole
broke it
nother.
out a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
no. I've learned some things since then.
One of my favorites that I own. One of my favorites.
That's awesome, Andrew. Well, thank you so
Appreciate that.
much. Fritz, thank you for setting up this stream and anybody out there watching, back Prestige and back Kingdom Causes, Bellflower. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you later. Okay, hold on.
Keep smiling.
Keep smiling. It's no, actually, man, I had trouble with this last time too. How do you actually stop this whole stream thing? Live. It's good to know you can pause it, so that's good.
Oh yeah.
It's on Zoom.